The night two unmarked black SUVs screeched to a halt outside my quiet suburban home in Willow Creek, a sleepy enclave just outside Richmond, Virginia, on a humid August evening in 2026. The neighbors thought they were witnessing a drug bust. Curtains twitched, and whispers spread like wildfire. They weren't entirely wrong, but they had no clue what had sparked this chaos. A woman in a neon green tank top and a self-appointed neighborhood watch badge had just crossed a line no civilian should ever touch. As she shrieked about community standards, while federal agents pinned her to my freshly mulched flower bed, a neighbor muttered, "What's her deal?" The real question was, what hadn't she done? Linda Harper had just trespassed on my property, oblivious to the fact that my doorbell wasn't just a camera, it was a covert node wired straight to a Department of Defense server. One wrong move, and she'd landed herself on a national security watch list, all because she couldn't stand the angle of my porch lights. Willow Creek was the kind of place where people moved to escape the noise of the city's cozy grid of manicured lawns and picket fences, far enough from Richmond's hustle to feel serene, but close enough to catch the political buzz when Congress was in session. I'd chosen it for peace after years working in federal cybersecurity, craving a low-profile life. Instead, I got Linda. It started my first week in the house when my motion sensor floodlights caught her snooping around my mailbox at midnight, scribbling notes like she was auditing my life. I thought she was just nosy until she showed up the next day, banging on my door with a binder full of violations. Linda Harper, president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, had the demeanor of a drill sergeant who'd traded fatigues for yoga pants. "Your porch lights are too bright," she snapped, eyeing my security cameras like they were contraband. I smiled, assured her everything was up to code HOA, and federal land closed the door before she could pry further. Linda didn't take kindly to being ignored. Over the next month, she filed complaints about my fence height, claimed my solar panels were disrupting the aesthetic, and even suggested my sprinkler system was too loud. I brushed it off, focused on my work testing a civilian defense prototype called Sentinella System with AI-driven threat detection, perimeter sensors, and a direct line to classified federal networks. Think Fort Knox, but disguised as a suburban picket fence. Linda, though, was obsessed. I caught her husband, Tom, measuring my side gate one evening, mumbling about property lines before scurrying off. Then she fixated on my keypad-locked gate, staring at it like it hid state secrets. She wasn't wrong, but she had no idea how deep the rabbit hole went. One muggy night in September, my phone buzzed with an alert during a classified briefing. Sentinel had detected multiple breach attempts. The AI flagged a figure lingering near my azaleas for over a minute, deliberate, not curious. I pulled up the live feed. Linda, in a tactical vest and cargo shorts, clutching a flashlight and muttering about unpermitted fixtures. Then she crossed the final barrier. Sentinel's escalation protocol kicked in silently. Stage 1 alerted me. Stage 2 pinged a DHS channel. And Stage 301, she just triggered sent a signal to a DoD terminal I wasn't even clear to discuss. Within minutes, 2 SUVs roared in from a nearby intelligence hub. No sirens, just lethal precision. Linda was still ranting when the agent stepped out, their tactical gear blending into the shadows. Mistaking them for local code enforcement, she waved her binder and lectured them about my non-compliant landscaping. She didn't finish her sentence. They had her face down in the petunias before she could blink, confiscating her phone and marching her to the sidewalk. I pulled up 10 minutes later to a neighborhood frozen in shock porch lights glowing, dogs yapping, and an elderly couple gawking from their stoop. Agent Carter, a stoic man with a dry wit, greeted me with, "Never seen an HOA bust before." Linda spotted me and erupted. "This is your fault. You rigged this trap." Carter didn't flinch. "Ma'am, you tripped a federal security node. Silence is your best option." I kept it brief, explaining that my property was a test site for a federal security program, fully authorized. Linda's excuse she was checking for violations earned a cold stare from Carter. "You breached a classified system. That's not trespassing. That's a national security incident." She looked ready to combust, but I just walked back inside. The footage I reviewed later was damning. Every angle, timestamp, and sensor log showed Linda's deliberate intrusion. She hadn't just crossed a line. She'd sprinted past it, thinking she was untouchable. By morning, Linda was in a federal holding room, probably still clutching her HOA president mug. The agents cleared her as a non-threat, but her stunt earned her a spot on a civilian breach watch list, no small feat for someone whose biggest prior offense was finding a neighbor for an unapproved mailbox. The DoD sent me a notice to tone down Sentinel's civilian triggers, but I knew the issue wasn't the system, it was Linda's ego. She hadn't stumbled into my yard. She'd stormed in, desperate to control what she couldn't understand. 48 hours later, Linda's version of events spread like gossip at a church picnic. She claimed I'd weaponized my lawn to frame her, violating her HOA rights. A few neighbors bought it, asking if my fence was electrified or if I was a CIA plant. I kept my answers vague, but when Linda taped a violation notice to my mailbox accusing me of unauthorized surveillance tech, I called Carter. He didn't handle HOA drama, but he made an exception. At the next HOA meeting, he walked in, his federal badge gleaming, and silenced the room. Certain actions have compromised a classified security test, he said, eyes locked on Linda. Interfering with federal systems carries criminal liability. The board went pale. Linda's claim of inspecting visual abnormalities fell apart, and the room turned on her. One member asked if her antics had put the whole neighborhood under federal scrutiny. Carter's nod was all it took. The fallout was brutal. Linda's signal jamming attempt caught on camera as she paced my fence with a cheap transmitter went viral in the neighborhood chat. Memes of Linda the Lawn General flooded social media, and her HOA complaints, from my overly reflective garage to my invasive roses, became a running joke. When she tried to sue me for emotional distress, my dossier of footage, logs, and audio including her bragging about taking me down shut it down. Her lawyer bailed, and the HOA stripped her of power. Desperate, she filed a county complaint claiming my oversecure house endangered the community. It backfired, triggering a secondary federal probe into her interference. Linda's house hit the market quietly, and she vanished with Tom in a moving truck, her prized lawn gnomes left in the dirt. The neighborhood exhaled. Kids played freely. The HOA rebranded as Harmony Hills, and I added a subtle sign to my gate. Perimeter secure, peace insured. Carter called to say Linda's file was flagged, never hold a board position again. You let her bury herself, he said. We just watched. Months later, a blog post about HOA overreach versus military-grade security drew fleeting media attention, but Willow Creek moved on. A new family replaced Linda, their kids' laughter filling the street. One evening, I saw her old SUV creep by. Linda staring blankly from behind the wheel. She didn't stop. My system logged her and I let it go. Peace wasn't just restored, it was fortified.